Hello and welcome back to my channel. Back with another update on progress of the Golden Hind. I've decided that before I go much further with any more part of it, I need to make sure that I've got a solution to the sails and the rigging. So I looked into a few options regarding the sails, and they're available to buy as an aftermarket product that's already been made and stitched and printed in some place, because they've got records believe that they may have had the three lions emblem on them and a red cross and a green cross symbols on them. So I'd like to do that, put the symbols onto them. Now with the kit came the back formed sails, as if you remember from the earlier boxing, are these. Now they're split and broken, but actually where they're split is quite a way away from where you want to cut them out anyway, so they would be okay to use. What I thought I would have a go at doing is remaking them, because they look too plasticky, they look too heavy, and I don't know, they don't look natural enough really. And where these lines are supposed to be sort of stitched parts, where the separated pieces of fabric would have been made. I don't like them, so I thought about the aftermarkets, and again they're sort of 60 quid in places to buy, and when you look at them, those lines have been stitched in. It's just a piece of cotton by the looks of it, and those lines have been stitched in by the CNC sewing machine. Now the stitching at that scale is well out, so you know, the stitching at this scale you'd barely see it, it'd be that small. So they look wrong, and the print almost looks too clean for what it should be. So I'm unsure how to go about doing it. I thought about using fabric, bits of old cotton, and stitching it myself and putting the roping around the edges, and then using some sort of PVA to form the shape. But again, even that, the finest fabric would be out of scale. It's too heavy, it's too thick really. And if you look at a tall ship under sail, the sails were almost transparent at that, because they're so huge. The fabric, the light would probably most definitely shine through them, and I doubt that there would have been perfectly white sailcloth available. It's going to be a tan down colour, if not quite grubby actually. I don't know if I'm building the ship sort of heavily weathered or a clean sort of model of it yet. I haven't decided. I'll do that at the end. I'll decide how heavily I'm going to weather it, as at the moment I haven't done any. So the state of the sails though, I don't think want to be too white, and clearly that is not the right colour, even though it's an aged back formed plastic, and you could airbrush them, I'm sure. Obviously if you was to brush paint this in any way, you're going to see it through the light coming through. So I decided not to go with that. So what could I do instead? Looking at other people's videos on YouTube as well, always a great source of information and guidance. I saw that some people were using tissue paper to do them, or silk span, which isn't very readily available in the UK anymore, I believe. It's kind of stuff that's used for model aircraft, the fuselage and doping of it to make sure it's taut and structural on an RC airplane. So following that, I thought I like the idea of the thinness of the tissue paper and the transparency of it. So the overlapping, the joints within it, there's a technique that I saw that we're creating these overlaps, and I thought it was quite an interesting idea. So I've had to play around with it and started to create the sails, and with the patterns that go on there, I've also got some ideas on how I'm going to do that, to create a stencil. I looked online for stencils of the three lions, the Tudor style three lions and the Tudor crosses, sort of stencils, and there's nothing much available. The three lions, you can get stencils, face painting stencils and stuff quite easily, but they're way too big. I'm looking for something that goes on to whichever sail it is, sail E, I think it may be, where the three lions go on to. Of course, the only reference material I've got is online, using sort of looking at aftermarket products, and where they've placed these symbols is what I'm going to be following to try and add those stencils. I mean, to try and hand paint three lions on there at that scale is going to be really quite difficult. So anyway, for getting those, I've started playing around with the tissue, like I say, so let's have a quick look at that in a moment then. Well, here I am, just steadily laying some white glue along the edge of the tissue. It's undiluted. You want to keep this quite thick at this stage. If you try and dilute this, the tissue paper will absorb some of the moisture and it will go wrinkly on you, and you end up in a bit of a mess. So only a kind of a 2mm band of white glue, and these strips of tissue I pre-cut with a craft knife, 10mm wide. So I pick the tissue up and I check for shiny side up, seems to work better to lay the glue onto rather than the matte side. And you can see through it and align it so you've got 2, maybe 3mm, and I keep it stuck to the craft board so I can use the lines on the table as a reference to make sure I'm keeping this parallel, and just repeat this process. If you're going to do a batch of this, you want to do most of the batch at the same time. It's a bit of a repetitive process, but it's quite rewarding at the end. You want to do the batch because you don't want to leave it all on the craft mat for too long. The glue will dry really hard, and you may tear the tissue trying to lift it. So you want to leave it a little bit tacky before you try and lift it up off the table. I took the templates for the sails from the original vac form by using a flexible tape to take the measurements of the sails because they're not flat. So I wanted the overall length to be able to cut the sails to that size, and then be able to bellow them, so set them eventually with I'm thinking using Easy Dope, which is an acrylic product for doping tissue on RC planes, which I've used quite a few times before, and it's really good for pulling tissue taut over timber frames, but I don't know how it's going to react with just sort of unstretched tissue, but we'll find out. I need to do that because if I want to put a stencil onto it once they're formed and dry, obviously I need something to stick the adhesive to, and not just directly to unfinished tissue, because it's only going to tear. So it needs to have a coating. Right, so after that process of laying all the bits of tissue and gluing the edges, and then using the templates that I cut, these cardboard templates, using them as stencils for the sails, cut the outlines and then laid the string around the edges, and then another 3mm strip of tissue out to encapsulate the string. Let that dry, and then overnight I put a mist coat of, this is easy dough, it's just in an acrylic formula, really good. Used a mist bottle to give them a coating, and then today I've turned them over and I've given a mist coat to the front of the sail. I'm quite happy with them, really. So that one, as you see in the video, I did that's where I separated and then did the sheet as just this is a blank piece of the tissue. Used the template to cut the shape and then allow an amount for the overlap there, and then cut that line, and then use the rest of the piece and then glue it following that line, and then trim the whole sail to size, if that makes any sense. And then you end up with something like that. I don't know if you can see with the camera zooming in, and the string is trapped and around the edges. So that's now formed. They'll hold their shape and they'll be manipulated in a bit more onto the timbers that they're going on to. You can see I've got some suspended hanging there to dry. There's still a little bit on the tacky side. So that's where I'm at with those. Once they're fully dry, I'll give them an airbrush, a light kind of tan sand colour, and then think about the emblems, which we'll look at next. So for the sails, I wanted to create the 3-line decal stencil and the crosses. So after a lot of thinking about it, I came up with a bit of a plan. I hope I've come up with a bit of a plan. I've started to work on it now. This is a piece of software that the computer and the monitor and everything has been in my loft for probably the last 10 years. What this is sign making software. Many years ago I used to have a go at vinyl sign making, plotting, you know, and so I thought that a good way of creating those stencils is maybe use an old piece of vinyl, which I had some rolls of vinyl as well up in the loft, and I don't know if they're any good or not, but thought I'd give it a go, and dug out the plotter as well and linked it all up. Now the biggest problem was remembering how to do this, so I got some images offline and had a look at, and this computer being so old, it's XP, and there's no Wi-Fi, there's no wireless internet connection to it. I tried to connect my phone through USB, and it's just not reading it. They're not communicating, so that was no good. There's just no way of really getting an image onto the screen, which the software has got various ways of finding outlines of images and things, but I couldn't do that. So the only option I had really was to carry on and draw it. So the ER logo with the rose, the crosses, the red and the green crosses, and the 3 lions, I had to go about drawing, which took ages actually. So if I look in on I won't show all of them. Basically with these logos, what I've done is I've done a 3-part stencil. So on this one, the E and R will be in red and the rose is in red, and in the center of the rose there's a yellow circle, and then there's little green bits around the edge of the rose. So what I've done is done this as one stencil, so I can airbrush the red details of the E and the R and the rose. That one is just the circle, a circle part of the stencil. So the circle part of the stencil, which is a yellow circle, so I can lay, once I've sprayed the red, I can use this cutout in the vinyl to line me up on the red, which should naturally put that yellow dot in its correct position from the red. And then once I've done that, very similar theory to that for the green parts of the logo. There must be an easier way of zooming out than this, but I can't remember. To the green parts of the logo, I've done another one with just those parts. So again, I can line up with the E and the R, and once they're lined up, now I just have to put a piece of masking tape over them. Don't want to spray them again, and then just spray airbrush green, and it should just leave those marks as a three layer mask. I should be able to do that. So that one wasn't so bad to draw, but the crosses were quite difficult because they're not sort of standard crosses. They're on an angle, and then this one's got sort of a detail at the end of each cross. I'm not sure historically what they represent. You know, they are whatever. So you know, they look quite good though. So, and then the three lions. So to draw that it took quite a while, a few evenings to do. So the template, the stencils themselves, because I wanted them, these are scaled. I've drawn these and scaled these in, and they're 40mm in height, all three lions. So that sail with the ER is quite large. That sail, I have the three lions on it at 40mm high. And then there's a mizzen sail which has got nothing on it. And then you have that one with the green cross, 40mm, and that one with the red cross at 35mm. So that's what I scaled those in at. And the three lions, what I've done is I've done it like this and then drawn an outline box around them. So when I weed this, take away the vinyls after I've plotted it that I don't want, I should be left with that square box and the three lions missing from it. So when I lay that down, that's my mask. So if I zoom in on that, you can see the three lions, and I've done it 3 times on a piece of vinyl to make sure that hopefully I can get one of them clean enough to actually use, because sometimes, because they're so small, I'm expecting the plotter to tear and rip a little bit on the edges of these designs. So if I can just get one clean set, then I'll be happy, and then I can use that to lay over the sail to airbrush it. So that's what I'm in the process of doing. So these images are ready to be cut onto vinyl. So I've picked some vinyl out of the loft. It's a light blue vinyl. Doesn't really matter what colour it is, it's just a stencil. So I think that the time has come, we'll give it a go, and we'll try and cut them on the plotter and see what we end up with. So if I highlight them, I go to cut and I go to plot, it adds them onto the layout of the vinyl. So I don't want to just cut up through the length of the vinyl, I may as well go across it. So if I rotate the shape and then add that, my mouse is terrible, it's really sticky, it's not working very well at all, so excuse the lack of control of the mouse. That'll do. So that is ready to cut. So all I need to do now is click that button. So this is the vinyl plotter, which is all loaded with blue vinyl, So if I press enter to register it to start where it wants to be, as I showed you on the other program, it's all set ready to cut. So I'm pretty simply going to press cut. Fingers crossed this works. Here we go. Hopefully that's all 3 stencils cut. Okay, so now that was complete, what we should end up with is a piece of vinyl with the cut symbols. So if I start by removing most of the, it's really difficult to see actually where the cut line is. If I start by removing the excess vinyl, you see, and it leaves just the square box masks. And in amongst those 3 cut shapes, I use a pair of tweezers and just gently start picking away the parts of the lion the vinyl from the lions, the bits that really need to be very careful here. So I'll carry on and weed those out, and hopefully we get at least one that's workable. After a little bit of weeding, I've got something that's useful, I hope. So that is my vinyl stencil of the 3 lions. I managed to get a couple really clean versions. I've got my crosses drawn, cut, so I've done a couple of those just in case I need more, and my ER sections, and I still have a piece to weed out actually for that, which has got the green sections. But yeah, no, mostly there, really happy with that.